going on, everybody? Nick Powell's publisher of 1851franchise.com here with another episode of Meet the Z, my absolute favorite type of segments because it is so awesome when someone can jump into business ownership. So, Carrie, thank you so much for joining me for this discussion. Before we get into where you are today, I like to go way back because if I think through at least the first largest obstacle with becoming a franchisee, it's the process of even deciding that this is something that you want to do with your career and your life. It's a huge decision. So take me back to, how did you even accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise backstory?
That's actually a good question. I have had a varied background in between pharmaceuticals, medical, and finance, and even software, lots of sales and marketing. So I've kind of had a nice array of experience prior to looking into this. And I just felt that based on time and experience that, I was constantly helping other companies grow their businesses and benefit from that it would be beneficial for me to consider doing this for myself. So
at the point of making that decision to look into franchising, did you have a good grip on what franchising was at that point?
Actually, to be honest with you, no. Even once you get into franchising and you start doing your homework, you didn't realize how many companies are franchised. So it was from the very beginning, it was kind of a big learning process.
Yeah, I think of my own experience. I accidentally fell into a PR agency that worked with franchise brands. My understanding going into that company, I understood what PR was and I understood what marketing was. My understanding of franchising was McDonald's. But even at that point, I didn't even know what it is. And from where I sit, and part of the gap that needs to be closed in franchising is, where do you even begin to educate yourself on what franchising is and what is the best practices to figure it out? So it's a daunting experience. How long, when you make this decision, how long did it take you to go through the process? And obviously end with right at home, but what was that process like?
Honestly, I think I might have moved a little bit faster than others, just based on a lot of different circumstances rather than just looking into franchising. At the time, I was working with a group of interventional radiologists, neurointerventional radiologists, and doing a lot of education to referring physicians as well as the general public. And I really loved it. It was it's a fascinating field. It's constantly changing, or the way we do procedures is constantly changing. But other circumstances in my life just kind of led me to think about other options. And with those other options, you start doing a little digging and research. And within that research, I think we then, actually both my husband and I were kind of at the same point, and we somehow came upon a person who represents franchises, and spent a lot of time speaking with him and kind of getting a better overview of what's involved, and the benefits of franchising rather than trying to start something on your own. It's kind of like it's probably a little faster step up the stairs.
Yeah, I mean, I would say majority of buyers in non-food, like food franchisees, say, "Boy, I love that product. I'm going to become a franchise owner with that brand." The rest of them end up using a coach or a consultant. Majority of them, because it's like, where do I begin and what direction do I go in? When you're working with this consultant, did you straight line it into senior care, or did you look at other concepts that were total polar opposites?
I did review other concepts, but being that I was also looking to move out of state into a new area, and not knowing, the permanence of my future, many of the other franchises was a little bit bigger of a financial investment in actual real estate, buildings, that type of thing, equipment trucks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really didn't want to get tied down. I mean, like, other than McDonald's, which is probably, the number one franchise, it's a big process getting the right financing and, taking the time to really do that. So that kind of helped narrow it down. And then from there, with my medical background and having done a lot of sales and marketing, it just kind of started segueing into home care. I actually, even when I was with my previous job, I met a woman who was providing in-home care services for her clients, and so we kind of connected and had lunch. So it was a little bit of an introduction there initially.
When I think about senior care, obviously there's the tactical side of the service that you're in, but you're also in the labor business because you have to have management over a team. Was there any part of going from working for someone else into business ownership into senior care that you wish you would have known? That obviously you had to figure out how to craft your why once you got into it, but was there anything that you wish you would have known going into it?
I think that whether it's a franchise or any business owner that's starting a business, I think you just never can truly comprehend how much you still have to learn and how much work there is involved if you want to succeed. It's, a lot of times people will joke with new owners and say, if you knew how much work it was going to be, would you have still done it? It's kind of nice. It's like having a baby. You don't really know until the baby comes home and is crying at night. And then somehow you get through it. And sometimes people have a second. It's a lot. And it's been good because in a way I've also learned a lot more about myself. I've stretched my knowledge in different aspects, even with, all the different software programs and the financing of it, and hiring, recruiting, learning how to, find and keep, a good team. It's a continual process, put it that way, of learning and trying to improve yourself.
Yeah, you could read any business book written by entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial people on what it's like to be a business owner, but it's almost impossible to explain the juggling that has to go on once you're in that seat. I mean, I can think through my own experience, and it's the same. Like, all of a sudden I have to be an expert in HR, labor relations, supply chain management, client management. Like, there's a lot. And so, but that's the advantage, hopefully, of a franchise brand. And obviously you landed with one of the good ones where there's at least some infrastructure behind you. And I mean, I'll say the statement, my perception of Right at Home is one of the assets ends up being the fellow franchisees, because it seems like you guys are built of a community of people that are willing to share information and have each other's backs.
Oh, absolutely. I did do my research. I had read great things about Right at Home. But to be honest with you, it's been an amazing experience. I would say everyone from, corporate is responsive and helpful, and they all kind of jump through hoops to try to assist you, from anyone with working on the finance end to fix issues to coaches. So the support, they listen to feedback about, marketing ideas. They want to hear from you, and then take that and help improve and help you grow. The other thing that I found is that the other owners have all been really helpful. And I have to tell you, during the pandemic is essentially when I started my business. Everyone was, frantic and trying to figure things out. So I really leaned on the other owners, especially at the time that were starting as I was, and we really helped each other out. I've joined a performance group, which I really enjoy and benefit from. And all the owners there have been of tremendous help and support. And, there are times when you start kind of questioning or doubting yourself, which I think is not unusual for anybody. And I just feel like, you talk to them and they they just, remind you of all you've done, and they just remind you that you keep doing the best that you can do. And it's always the cream rises to the top. So it's a good reminder, and it's nice to hear that from other owners.
So just so that I have the story right, you move states and start a business during COVID?
Yes. Oh, and renovated the house.
Well, I mean, you clearly know how to put stress on your back and just fight through it. So okay, so now 4 years later, where's your story now? How's business going?
It's going really well. The first year is challenging. I'm in a state that requires a lot of licensing and so forth. So that was kind of a long process, but got through it. And then it's just, there's some juggles and changes creating a team. And I would say that you really can start growing a lot when you start having a good team in place, helping handle the day-to-day recruiting and scheduling and everything. But it's been a good steady growth, and this year in particular, I've really seen a tremendous growth, which I've been happy about. And I have now a great team in place, and I'm looking forward to a prosperous future and a continued growth.
Are you looking at territory expansion now?
I actually did a territory expansion last year. So I started off with a couple territories here in the West Palm Beach, Florida area. And then last year I expanded up into what's called Indian River County, which is north of me and includes Vero Beach. And then that was in the spring. And then in the fall of last year of 2023, I purchased St. Lucie County, which includes Port St. Lucie and Fort Pierce.
That's awesome. Well, so, I mean,
who knows what holds in the future?
when I'm advising a buyer, I'm just going to say this because I want your opinions on it. There's two main things. One is that your most powerful tools to use when making the decision to buy a franchise ends up being your head, your heart, and your gut. Like those three is the things that you have to listen to, because like obviously if you can't be passionate about the business, it's going to be really hard to want to scale it. Your head is going to at least allow you to access your background and all of your previous life experiences to say, does this align with what I'm trying to get to? And then your gut is really the culture check, just to make sure that you're joining the right brand. And then the next piece of advice that I usually give is when you're getting into a franchise, it's very, very, very difficult to build wealth off of one single location. And so a lot of people, if they limp into the business financially, or they're strapped going in financially, then it doesn't set up enough bandwidth for them to win. And so I say, always figure out a way to be qualified for at least three. Buy one, have enough for a rainy day, and have enough for scale. So I would say those things. So two follow-up questions. Does that resonate with you? And then secondly, when you got into this, are you thinking scale? Like, did you already have the scale mindset going into this?
I think when I first was looking at the franchises, I, to be honest with you, initially was not. And again, made this lack of experience. But quickly, once I started buying and talking to other owners and getting a better perspective of how Right at Home, works and how the whole process, then my mind quickly changed. And you're right. It's not even just the acquisition of the territories. It's being able to expand to have additional office space, additional staff, having those resources, and being able and really taking whatever you do make in the business initially to put back into the business for that growth.
When you're figuring, I mean, obviously what in essence you're doing, you're franchising a franchise. Like you figure out, how do I build my team, my structure in one market, and then how do I expand this? Is this the point where, if you reflect or backcast on life and all of your previous career moves, they started making sense because you're able to tap into some of those leadership skills to be able to scale the business?
Definitely. I am definitely tapping into any type of experience that I had in the past. But with that said, I continue to tap into all my current resources to be able to continue that growth. I don't hesitate to reach out to people that I feel are moving the direction that I would like to move, that, I I've been impressed with in terms of the business decisions that they've made. And yeah, I'm not shy about that at all. So I will never, I will never say that I have enough experience to be as successful as I'd like to be. And the only way I think I can continue to do so is to benefit from the resources that I can reach out to.
Do you have a definition of success or happiness that you're going for? Have you thought about that? Because obviously you've done a tremendous job of scaling, and you didn't have that mindset going into this, or that plan. I mean, do you have a definition of success or happiness?
Um, I don't know. I try to, but to be honest with you, I'm just naturally a very competitive person. I was a competitive athlete and all in high school and college, and even afterwards, doing even in my 40s, I was doing tough mutters and everything. It's just kind of in my nature. So once I'm exposed to something, I take a moment to look at it and say, I can do that too. So I don't know that there's a definition of happiness, but I do try to take a moment once in a while and reflect on what I've accomplished, and especially within the past 4 years, especially considering the circumstances, and say, okay, take a moment, acknowledge what you've done. Okay, now the moment's over. Now it's time to move on to the next goal. So, I think obviously the key to happiness is outside of business, with having your health, which I'm really trying to focus on, family, friends, community, and just I think within the business is knowing that you can make a difference in people's lives, getting those phone calls, saying thank you for everything, getting those emails. Your staff's amazing. Coming into the office and working with an amazing team. It's, I guess I don't have to come into the office every day, but I do, because I like working with my team, and I appreciate all that they do. And I couldn't perform the growth that I'm performing without them.
Two comments on what you just said. One, let me start with the last statement. That's another thing that I don't think any human being can hear you and hear what does it feel like to have a community or your clients or your staff celebrate the impact that you're having on their lives. But it's almost like there's an intangible there that you have to like live it to really understand it, because it is such a impactful thing. And the reality is the business segment that you're in is deeply connected to the emotional side of human beings. It's such an important part of our life journey that you are helping handle. And I think it's such a awesome thing. It's an awesome thing when business and impact can relate to each other. Another thing I'll say is there's a great book about the gap, that after you get past the stress financially, which there is a big leap of jumping into business, and now you've made enough money where you're sustainable and you're able to pay your bills or maintain your lifestyle. Now what's interesting, that gap in happiness, like it never changes. Like you get up to here, and because of the competitive nature, you're like, well, I can see the next one, and then let me go climb. And it's like that's an interesting thing about entrepreneurs, is it's hard to really define happiness. You can have moments and you can try to reflect on making today your masterpiece, but that gap continues to climb. Right.
Yes. Well, and I do, and I'm always fascinated with, the well-known entrepreneurs, the billionaires. There was recently an article about, the wealthiest self-made female entrepreneur that I was reading about. And I guess she grew up on a farm in Wisconsin. And I was like, you know what? Just reading those stories and knowing there's people out there, it really does. It helps inspire me and helps motivate me, and helps me take my goggles from, here's my office and my business, to, wow, what else is out there, and how else can, I create these opportunities for myself and for others around me.
Well, I mean, here clearly you've had tremendous success, and congratulations to you. It's awesome to hear. I love hearing a franchisee find their path, build success, and just keep duplicating it, because like that's part of the magic of franchising. But to the outside world, they might hear multi-unit franchisee or multi-territory franchisee, and they're like, oh, okay, Carrie's making all of this money. And you think, okay, sure, there's clearly a good business here. But the beauty of this is the impact ends up being so great because we have teams that we have to support. And the only way we're going to support is by taking care of our clients. And so when you're able to multiply that just over and over and over again and zoom out and look at the true impact on human beings that a business like this can have, it's so awesome. Like it's a really cool thing to see. But go back to what our opening discussion was. I don't think majority of the public understands that impact on franchising or the true impact on senior care. Like there's two things there that you're deeply impacting, obviously the United States and clearly the world.
Yeah, and I would say that you mentioned making an impact on clients, but I also think we make a big impact on those that we employ. So providing a good, steady job for our caregivers, providing them the support that they need. You know, I think oftentimes they feel like they're kind of alone out there, and we make sure that they know, you know, we're here to help them, support them if they have questions, issues, concerns, to contact us, whether they need to, you know, come into the office, maybe we meet them out in the field, whatever it is. So as much as we're providing that connection and that support for our seniors and our clients, it's as much for the people we employ who provide those services. And knowing that we're providing employment to, you know, large number of people who depend on us is a great thing. And also, what I really love is when we find the great matches. You know, the client caregiver match where the connection is just deep and appreciative, and you think, you know, that's we've not made a difference in one person's life, but now we made a difference in two people's lives, and possibly even the family members on both sides. So it is rewarding.
I want to close on this. So let's just say there's someone watching this and considering franchising. My belief is that brands don't sell brands, people do. That someone listening to your story or someone listening to my story is going to say, well, I can do that too. And it lends that confidence. So check mark there. But let's say someone's watching this. Is there any advice that you would give them about either starting the journey or making the decision to jump into it?
I think there's a couple things. One, you know, depending on if you're looking at home care specifically, yes, you know, with hard work and growth and opportunity, you can create a successful business, which is rewarding. However, and I'm sure it's probably like this in other industries, but you have to be really willing to make the sacrifices, especially in the beginning, to make it happen. There were times where I had a client and the caregiver wasn't available, and you have to be the caregiver. There's ones, you know, you have to take that client and drive them to the doctor's office, whatever it is. You kind of have to step up and wear every hat. And I think that if you're going to start a business, you have to acknowledge not just looking at the spreadsheet and the numbers of someone who's been in the business 5, 10, 15 years, but you have to understand what's involved in the day-to-day in the very beginning, and be willing to wear all the hats. You have to be able to handle every aspect of your business, you know, from day one. And, you know, I don't think a lot of people acknowledge that. I don't know, you know, at McDonald's would be talked about if you have to be willing to flip the burgers, but maybe you do when you first open a store. So I think that's an important aspect, is that you're not, even though you're buying into a franchise, you're not buying into an established business. You're buying into a name and the recognition and a standard industry, or industry standard, excuse me. But you're still starting a business from the ground. And in order to do that, you need to jump in with both feet and learn and do.
I love that for two reasons. One, the analogy is simple, but I like like asking people, even in the interview process, understanding what they would do. There's a pop up to the outfield, and the center fielder's right there. Do you run over there and back them up in case they miss it, or do you stay in right or left field? And so you think about that in business ownership, or I've thrown garbage on the floor just to see if a candidate picks it up when they walk in the door, or do they walk right past it and they cannot see this. And that's part of, like, I think you have to ask yourself that as a franchise buyer, am I willing to do that? Because some people, ego or whatever, they're like, I've worked so hard in my career, I don't have to do that. I think that's the flip side. The unfortunate part of franchising, there are plenty of franchise brands that sell on these big fancy numbers. Look how much money you can make. Yeah, but there's such a big journey to get there. And if you're not honest and transparent in that journey to become successful, then it has misaligned expectations. Then you get in here and think I'm just going to magically make money when I open up my business. And that is as far from the truth as possible. So you got to ask yourself, am I willing to hustle? Am I willing to be a team player? Am I willing to do the dirty work? And I'm willing to do what it takes to scale my business. And clearly, I mean, moving, renovation, and buying a business and not scaling it, like, check mark, you've done all that.
Yeah, it's hard. You know, those first few years, fortunately my family was understanding. You know, my late nights, you know, the office phone ringing at nights and on weekends has to be answered. So I was fortunate in that I had that support and acknowledgement. And you don't get to see your friends as much. And, you know, you hope that your real friends just truly understand a little bit of what you're going through and realize that as soon as you can come up for air, that you'll, you know, reach out and that you're just pouring yourself into something that you're passionate about, and that, you know, that's what it takes. So it's a little bit of a sacrifice, I think, to start any business, but it's definitely worth. And I'm kind of teaching my own daughters, they're young adults, that now is that it's scary and it's hard, and you have to be willing to sacrifice, but it's rewarding and worth it if you do.
I love your story. The only unsolicited advice I would give, and I'm actually looking in the mirror when I say this statement, because I have to do it too, is like it's a silver lining of the business that you're in. You watch the end of life with so many human beings, and what that should teach us as entrepreneurs is that life is short and there will be an expiration date. And if you don't look at today and just be really proud of what you've created, then what's it really worth? And clearly you've done awesome stuff. So I would encourage you, like, pat yourself on the back a little bit. Like, that's cool. You've won the first race. I mean, if you're doing these mega marathons, like, the reality is after you finish a race, you're going to go do another one, but you did finish one, and that's pretty cool. And you've done awesome stuff. I'm really grateful to hear your story. This has been great.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you making the inquiry and the opportunity for me to share it, because I think there's other people that who've thought about it, and you know, it's easy to question yourself, but there are times where you just kind of have to make your mind up and jump in with both feet, and you'll do it. You have to really have faith in yourself. But you have to take a little risk first.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Carrie, thank you so much. Really appreciate this. For Carrie, I'm Nick. This is another episode of Meet the Z.